I wrote this song to pay tribute to the workers of New York Harbor. Some have given their lives laboring their trade, and as we praise their deeds, we turn them into folk heroes.
A shave in the mirror, a reflection of his past. A sister's acrobatic trapeze, backflips of the gymnast. Climbing a tightrope wire, runs in the family. Meeting angels on Jacob's ladder is their reality.
The phrase backflips of the gymnast refers to those who literally bend over backwards to do their jobs. Whether it is diving underwater to patch a hole or stretching from a scaffold to paint a ship, they contort their bodies to perform their demanding occupational roles. The NYPD Harbor Patrol Unit answers a late-night call to rescue fishermen trapped under their capsized vessel, diving through a maze of fishing hooks, tackle, and sharp metal that could puncture their suits at any moment. The scuba team finds the tiny, dark air pocket and heroically pulls the boaters up to the water's surface. And as we reflect back 20 years ago, an explosion pulled harbor workers to the Manhattan waterfront like a magnet. It was a morning that would change their lives forever. In the frantic escape from the burning towers, people rushed to the waterside to have their prayers answered. 500,000 New Yorkers were evacuated from Lower Manhattan during the 9/11 terrorist attack. An assembled flotilla of every conceivable watercraft answered the call, from the U.S. Coast Guard, all pulling up alongside the piers of Battery Park to shuttle their grief-stricken boatload of evacuees to safety. The haphazard but life-saving operation came to be known as the boat lift. New York Harbor has seen its share of epidemics and pandemics, from the yellow fever outbreak in 1798 to cholera and smallpox in the 1800s to the Spanish flu and polio in the 1900s. New York's healthcare workers ferried patients off Manhattan Island to makeshift quarantine hospitals in the smaller islands dotting the harbor. We cannot forget the doctors and nurses who gave their lives to treat the afflicted. Their bodies were anointed with salt water. They too ascended a ladder to the stars.
Platform diving trophies rest on shelved academy appointments. Chaplains calm the midshipmen with touching anointments.
Chaplains are no strangers to the waters of New York. New York City police and fire department chaplains are always on call, offering solace to their fellow officers in time of need. Navy chaplains were here at the onset of COVID-19 aboard the U.S. Navy hospital ship Comfort.
As a Navy chaplain, we're trained to be able to hold services on the battlefield or on a ship, or, so we can make use of any space, and we're quite adept to it. So for my fellow shipmates, the Alma Vanguard is the First Amendment right to practice the freedom of worshiping whatever God you want to.
And who was on the bridge of the USNS Comfort as it passed under the Verrazano? A Sandy Hook pilot. This rugged organization has been the backbone of New York Harbor since General George Washington stepped foot onto his ceremonial barge in Old Elizabethtown to be inaugurated as the first president of the United States in 1789. 13 pilots rowed Washington through New York Harbor to the steps of Wall Street in Manhattan. These weathered professionals are on call every minute of the day and night. They catch the pilot launch that noses up alongside the massive bobbing behemoths. Panamax container ships measuring more than 4 football fields in length, tankers hauling 9,000 gallons of fuel, and massive North Sea auto liners carrying 5,000 European imports typically steam into the port of New York and New Jersey every hour. With a prayer, a pilot grabs hold of the dangling ladder, climbing up to reach the safety of the deck. Twice this year, they didn't make it. The dangerous accommodation ladder remains a commonly used shipboarding platform device that defies safety protocol.
One rung higher, an accommodation if you please. One step further, I can feel it in my knees. Elevation to a higher order, a submission to the gods. Salt water anoints my body, ascending a ladder to the stars.
Workers adopted the phrase Jacob's Ladder from the Judeo-Christian biblical story. It is indeed a daily life of rope ladders, small spaces, and dangerous angles. These talented contortionists look upward from the water's surface, staring up towards the heavens.
In all of these examples, everyday workers quickly became heroes. Some were decorated, some were recognized, some were honored, most of them were not. Songs like this one helps to give a deserving place to those unknown faces. I stand here in awe of them. Through the centuries, New York Harbor has elevated many saltwater souls to their resting place in the heavens.
A collaborative effort. That's what it took for all the elements of the composition to come together. Marc Hittner's story, lyrics, and song foundation, Joe Mayer's instrumental expertise playing classical folk styles, and Vinny Pedulla's ear and musical background to layer their tracks for the finished product. In their own words, here's how it all happened.
I really didn't know anything about the song until I heard it when they came on Mark's phone. So it's a little eccentric, to say the least, in a good way. And so I was really trying to get my head around how to capture this. And part of the thing that I wanted to quickly say in this quick discussion is that I'm visually impaired. So I rely on a screen reader and things like
menu, hide, make, scrub, move, free, commit, bounce, extract, save, track, recall, new limit, rename, move, batch, duplicate, split into, delete. Mix, Mark session, window, mix, Mark session, window, mix.
That's what Mark and Joe were hearing in the control room when I was recording. So my access to the computer is to the screen reader. But having said that, I quickly just tried my best to assess the instrumentation and who was going to record everything. And I just kind of pieced it together. And I have a really cool out there reverb plugin from Eventide called Black Hole that allows you to get real crazy reverbs. It makes you sound like you're standing in the middle of a black hole or a quasar or other astronomical phenomenon. Try to get a nice foundation, and then Joe filled in the instrumentation. It was nice that we were able to use the B3 and the Fender Rhodes through the Leslie. That added a nice kind of vintage vibe to it, so to speak. One guy said, wow, reminds you of San Francisco circa 67. And Candlestick Park, it had a total 60s kind of beatnik, I guess the poetry versus the singing and the progression. And then I think the actual recording and and actually the Rhodes and the organ gave it like an old retro feel to it.
When you had first sent me the song, or we first sat down and played through it, they were the instruments that I had been using in a lot of the Irish band that I played kind of popped into my head, and so the fiddle and the mandolin right away were the first things that I thought of.
The mandolin had a nice kind of like, you created almost like a bass line using strumming of the chords, it seemed, on the mandolin.
Right. What I tended to do is take the chord structure but then I just kind of like to move around with one or two notes within those chords, slide them up and down, and then I just hear something in my head and I try to follow it, if that makes any sense. Using just the scales that go with the key that I'm playing in at that moment.